Hello and welcome to this Bite Size Academy module. I'm Emma Shatliff, manager of the Bupa Academy. At Bupa we're really serious about opening up the conversation around mental health in the workplace. As a parent myself, I know how hard it is to juggle work and family life. In today's session we'll be discussing the role line managers can play to support parents and guardians to support children with mental health challenges. I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Naomi Humber, clinical psychologist and head of mental wellbeing at Bupa. Welcome, Naomi. So if you're ready, we'll get started with the first question. Okay, Naomi, so research shows that since March 2020, a staggering 80% of teens have had symptoms of poor mental health. In what ways can children's mental health affect parents or guardians whilst at work?
Yeah, so the pandemic led to increasing levels of anxiety and stress in children and young people. We found that there was a lot of disruption to usual routines, and that played havoc really with children's mental health and well-being. We also realised that, teenagers have had a tough time. It's not an easy time in development anyway, but the pandemic exacerbated some of that stress. So what we found in research was that 52% of teens engaged in unhelpful coping behaviours such as excessive or restrictive eating, self-harm and hair pulling. And so, teenage years are a difficult time, and then mums and dads have got everything else that went on top with the pandemic too. So mums and dads and guardians, caregivers of children have had a really stressful time which has impacted on them in the workplace as well. So parents have gone into work really worried and concerned about what's going on at home, and that's understandably impacted on their performance and productivity in the workplace. So it might be that they've missed deadlines, not been able to complete some tasks, and been absent in meetings. And so overall, it's been a tough time because they felt they've been pulled in different directions because of the two parties, work and home, and felt quite guilty about being absent in both camps at times.
So naturally parents and guardians will at some point worry about their children's mental health whilst they're at work. So how important is it that organisations offer support to employees caring for a child with a mental health problem?
Yeah, so issues that children, young people, parents and guardians face need to be considered by employers and companies. If we don't and we ignore and we avoid those issues, it's going to impact on the bottom line. It can impact on productivity, absenteeism, high turnover, and really we do need to consider it as employers in terms of what we do to support our parents and guardians in the workplace. Stresses felt at home have a huge impact on things in work, and so what we need to do is we need to be able to understand what's going on and try and help and support in as best we can. What we find is if parents and guardians are supported in the workplace, they are much more likely to be able to concentrate and function and perform to the best of their ability in the workplace. And actually they feel very loyal to the company then, very cared for, valued, understood. And so they don't have the need to sort of take time off, think about reducing their hours, or actually taking some time away and maybe even quitting the job. So what we need to do is have the right resources, tools, support, guidance in place so that they can navigate being a parent, being a guardian, whilst being able to function at work.
So in particular, why is it important for line managers to help working parents to be in a better place to support themselves and their children?
So as parents and caregivers and guardians support their children and young people, we need to support them as a organisation or their employer. It goes a long way, and so what we see is in these sorts of individuals we find that there's caregiver burnout, which is absolutely huge. It's on the rise as well given the pandemic, so thinking about that exhaustion when you're looking after dependents all the time. People who particularly get exacerbated in that way are single parents because they don't have a partner to rely on to shield them from some of the tough times that they're having to face. We also find that too often parents are putting themselves right at the bottom of the list, so they're running on empty really, and they haven't got the resilience that's required either at work or at home. And if we don't feel we've got a sanctuary at home or at work, we end up really struggling. As a line manager, if we're unaware, we avoid, we ignore the conversation about how to support parents and guardians, we're going to end up in a situation where we're unaware of the needs that's going on, and it might end up where the employee is really struggling to perform in their role. They might be really having poor productivity, performance. It might be impacting in terms of presenteeism. They might be having random periods of absence because of the children. And so ultimately, if we don't offer that signposting and support, it's not going to end well for obviously ourselves as a business and also the person themselves. If we are able to provide care, support, guidance, signpost them accordingly, they will feel supported in that workplace, very much cared for, loyal, looked after, and they will thrive in that job.
And what are some of the things that line managers can do to support parents or guardians in the workplace?
So it's really important to get to know your employee, don't be a stranger to them, understand, what's going on for them at home, how you could support them in any way, shape and form, thinking about, really listening to what they've got to say, active listening and engaging them in those conversations, not shying away from it. Thinking about if there's any reasonable adjustments you can make to their working life to make it easier for them and more comfortable. It might be working from home on certain days or certain periods of time. Creating very much an open culture in the workplace so that teams discuss these sorts of things, what it's like to be a working mum, a working dad, and how difficult that can be at times. Signposting to mental health services as required, so it might be the Employee Assistance Programme, which covers from 16 plus, so it could be 16 and 17-year-olds who are struggling, they can get access through that employer assistance programme, or it might be the individual themselves, the parent or the guardian, they can get help, guidance and support through that programme too. It might be the Bupa Family Helpline, so that is a mental health helpline for parents and caregivers. That can be used even if the child isn't on the policy, and the adult can speak to someone there as a qualified professional to get that guidance.
Thanks so much for your time today, Naomi. That's all the questions we have on this subject. Thank you very much.